Tulsi Gabbard make it through the gauntlet and become the director of national intelligence? It's looking a little bit less likely day by day, and that's what reporting from behind the scenes seems to indicate. Listen to this.
I had a chance on Sunday night to be at an event here in Washington. There were a whole bunch of senators there, and I asked a couple of them, what they thought of Tulsi Gabbard's pick, given what had happened in Syria literally over the weekend, hours beforehand. And they kind of rolled their eyes and just, shook their heads in some kind of dismay. There are Democrats amongst them. This is going to be a challenge for them, and we don't know what more material might come out of Syria in connection with Tulsi Gabbard. Are there documents there that could be damaging to her? She is somebody who has on several occasions sided with the point of view of America's adversaries.
Yeah, so look, I think it might be a little bit too cute to imagine that Assad's got like a stack of documents of her being even more viciously pro-Assad than the public comments that we've already seen and all that. I don't know that that stuff is likely to come out, but there could be bank records of payments, or I don't know. I don't think that that stuff is likely. And I also think that you have everything you need to oppose Gabbard being DNI without any new evidence or anything conspiratorial or anything like, straight out of a Mission Impossible coming out of Assad's, mansions or whatever. I don't think that that stuff is necessarily likely to come. But I will also say, the senators who have been meeting with her, not all of them are super impressed. One senator who hasn't yet met with Gabbard personally told Jewish Insider late Monday that other members of the Senate Intelligence Committee had told colleagues that they were not impressed with her performance during their interviews. One said, and this is anonymous, again, courage all over the place here. The Intelligence Committee members are really, really concerned about her. Her interviews have not been going well. One told me she was the worst prepared candidate and was trying to get by on her BS personality. So there's a lot of rumbling among members. And I really wish that they had given more information about what they meant by that. Because when I think of a person who will just try to get through on personality and vibes, I don't think of Tulsi Gabbard. She's a really dry person. Remember when she filled in for Tucker Carlson and it was like barely a broadcast at that point? So I don't know if when they say her personality, they mean she just went in and said a bunch of pro-MAGA stuff like that. And that could well be what she did, because that's how she won over people on Fox News. That's how she won over Donald Trump. That's how she became one of the people who followed him around the campaign trail. It wasn't compelling rhetoric or anything like that. It was just, hey, I was a Democrat at one point. I used to be buddy-buddy with Bernie Sanders, and now I love literally everything that Donald Trump does. Maybe she tried to spin that same thing in these meetings. And I do think that will work with some of these senators, but it only doesn't have to work with a few, JR, for her to not make it through. So what do you think?
It seems like that BS personality comment is probably what you're talking about. It was probably a forced effort to have this personality that apparently she doesn't have. I hadn't noticed what you noticed before. I didn't also see her filling in for Tucker Carlson. So not too familiar with her personality beyond when she was, I guess, a Democrat. But so it does seem like it's an interview process. We know that it's literally an interview process, except when Pete Hegseth was going through it, he's going with the bull in a China shop approach. And I'm gonna be bullish, lethality, lethality, lethality. He keeps saying over and over again, and how he doesn't have to answer to the American people. Okay, but with her, maybe because she's a woman, she can't go with that approach. So she's trying to be this nice, ingratiating person who gets involved with folks who then hopefully they'll start liking her. But they know who she was, know who she is, and they know the BS that they're even participating in. So there's probably some levels of reading to the degree these folks, especially the ones that are formerly Democrats, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, and how much they're trying to catch this, jump on the bandwagon and get some kind of benefit themselves. Because let's keep it real, these senators know the game because they're playing it too. Who knows? Maybe that's it.
Yeah, and look, I think some of them, it might be indicating that they might oppose her because if she is actually not well prepared, and look, I know neither you listening to this or me speaking at you knows day to day exactly what the director of national intelligence does. It's probably a lot of meetings, a lot of hearing from sources, collating reports, all that sort of stuff, doing directives. But whatever it is, it's probably pretty complex. It probably requires a lot of experience. And just look, I'm not saying that she doesn't have any experience in the military or even with intelligence, but does that necessarily qualify for this? Does anybody get the impression, not just with this pick, but with the full breadth of Trump's picks, that he gives a damn at all about qualifications or readiness to do the job? Like when we have stressed that he's going to go for loyalists, we generally have talked about that as being a bad thing because we don't want people that will do what Trump wants, even if it's bad for America, against the Constitution or whatever. But there's also the thing of choosing loyalists because they're loyalists, even if they don't have any of the other capabilities. Like you could go for a loyalist who's qualified and someone who's more independent that's qualified, but that doesn't even seem what he's doing here. And these are important positions. And I just want to mention this because like, there's a way that some in the media have been presenting Gabbard. Like I see like dovish foreign policy being a thing that's thrown around. And that sort of language I think is used a lot these days to refer to people in the MAGA movement that have like opposed supporting Ukraine or whatever. And then trying to extrapolate from that they have some sort of, I don't know, evolved concept of what American foreign policy should be like. And like, yes, maybe Gabbard, not that she would be in charge of this as DNI or whatever, wouldn't advocate for large scale, long-term nation building in Iraq again or something like that. And maybe that's even derived from her experience in the military. But we also know from years and years of her commentary, she's perfectly fine with the black sites and the disappearances and enhanced interrogation and massively scaled up bombing campaigns. And so I feel like just not wanting to do Iraq and Afghanistan again is now considered all the bar you need to pass. And if you can pass that, you are awesome on foreign policy. Even if it means that you would continue our involvement at a lower level in many countries for the rest of time, where we're gonna be going in and we're gonna be taking people out, and we're gonna be kidnapping people, and we're gonna be bombing people, and we're gonna be arming rebel groups, and we're gonna be doing all the stuff that put us in the position where we eventually invaded Iraq and Afghanistan. We're gonna do all the 80s and 90s stuff that America did. And I've never seen anything from Tulsi Gabbard that implies that she's against any of that. People call Marjorie Greene anti-war because she thinks that Ukraine should be utterly overrun by Russia. First of all, she's literally calling for a military invasion of northern Mexico, but she also would be fine with any of that stuff. Is that pro-peace? Is that all that pro-peace has come to mean in the modern era?
Yes.
Is that, well, we didn't send in 100,000 troops, so what does it matter if we're financially supporting a group that's gonna become our lead terrorist antagonist in 10 years? I think we should expect more of our national security representatives than just that. Apologies for going off on the rant, JR.
Not at all.
Let me know what you think.
It all makes sense, but this is the thing though. It's similar like that analogy as far as pro-peace, and we're gonna have a non-wartime president with Donald Trump. It's the same thing when people, just because someone espouses 105 different racist and bigoted beliefs, they'll be like, oh, well, he didn't say the N-word. It's not like he used he called anyone any names. He can't be a racist, except the fact that he lives the entire life of one. Similar with this. So because you're not literally announcing an official war with a major country, then you're not a warmonger. You're not in support of facilitating warring type of things. This guy just said he wants to finish off the people of Palestine. It's not a war. I guess it's not a war because there's a huge, biggest army in the world supporting these folks that are killing many innocent people. So maybe it's not a war in their brains, but it's still killing people for the sake of pushing your political ideology on them, or at least, Netanyahu's genocidal tendencies. But still, when it comes to something like this, as far as her trying to fit in and be this one person that's gonna fit this match, again, these senators, how much are they willing to be on the line for being part of this type of a thought process? Are they trying to line up to the anti-war rhetoric and the belief system that Donald Trump doesn't believe in this either? I don't know, but that's gonna be the hard part. And I did read something about how they're tired of the bullying that has been going on as far as this standard operating procedure from the Trump administration, bullying these Republican senators. Bro, it's gonna hit ahead. These guys are egotistical. They like their power. And there's one spokesperson I read about yesterday from the Trump administration that was saying they need to understand that they don't have the power they think they have. You think they're not gonna hear that and be offended and be like, well, hold on, I'm Senator so-and-so from Arizona. I mean, I'm just throwing out a state. I'm not saying he's the guy or they're the senator that's talking like this, but they don't want their power usurped either. And maybe they didn't believe it, or maybe they're ready for that fight. We'll see.
Well, and we'll also see how mad Trump gets when he realizes that this is the strategy that the Senate is using against him. I'm feeling he's not gonna like that. But also, I just want to throw this up quickly before we move on to one fun little wrinkle. Yeah. Trump apparently has a strategy of his own. They dispute this, but two sources anonymously, but they say they have familiarity with the transition team's thinking, say that Trump continuing to push for Hegseth isn't about getting Hegseth into the position. He seems to understand behind the scenes that the guy is toast. Is that if you keep Hegseth out there, then all of the negative attention stays on him, and maybe Gabbard can skate by. Which, if you're Pete Hegseth, how mad does that reporting make you? But also, okay, I hear you. I hear you with that strategy. That's why we're focusing more on Gabbard. We could do both. I mean, we can go back to Hegseth tomorrow if necessary. Gabbard also sucks, and both of them need to be blocked from these positions. Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.